We are back in the Mediterranean Sea, where on this beautiful day in May, the sea is glittering as the sun is setting. We're speeding along on a motorboat, heading away from the small island of Philakes. On the boat, we have Paul Marchand, the cat burglar from France, and Harry Fitzroy, the intrepid explorer from the United Kingdom. And with them, they have 4 peculiar-looking people. One elderly gentleman dressed in what looks like a quite nice shirt that he has been sweating his way through over the last few days. And it looks all crinkled up now, and he is wearing a hat loosely on his head as he is dabbing away at his forehead nervously. Next to him is a young, attractive woman in her early 20s wearing green trousers and a green and red spotted sweater with a big, nice bow on top of it. She is trying to comfort the old man, and we know her as Elena Georgios, and him as Alexandros Georgios, a grandfather and a granddaughter. On the other side of the boat, there are 2 other fellows, both of them looking like they're in their 20s as well, one of them with particularly protruding ears and very neatly dressed, looking over at Elena with a lot of, he is clearly caring for her, you can see. And next to him is another person in his 20s, looking very traditionally Greek, with a nice mustache and a loosely fitted blue shirt. Everyone, tensions are high, but are getting slightly lower the further away we get from this island, where you two have just left behind a whole gang of what seems like kidnappers, but you don't know for sure. And this is where we start our scene, with Professor Alexandros Georgios turning to Harry, who is currently steering the boat. Harry, what's going through your mind as the professor is looking up at you, worried and flustered?
Well, my dear boy, I'm deeply concerned for my friend to start with, not to mention who these rotters were. Unbelievable. I don't know the full situation, but it seems to me that they had my friend captive, they were forcing him to do things, and they themselves seemed very unpleasant. No, this is all very disturbing, and as soon as possible I hope we can get the police involved and get to the core of things, what is going on, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask my friend, as soon as he's calmed down a little, what on earth is going on here?
Very good. And Paul, you were the last one to get in the boat, having made sure that everyone else was there safely. And you also were able to pick something up from the excavation camp that it seemed to be. And where are you on the boat, and what are you doing?
I believe I'm at the very back, and I'm keeping an eye out behind us, looking towards the horizon, towards the island, whatever we still see of it, and trying to see if we're going to be followed. I mean, obviously they must have a boat too, and I'm sure they're going to be very, very, keen on getting their prisoners back, or at the very least preventing us from, leaking the news of what has been going on there to the city. That might lead to some attention from the law, which certainly they would not appreciate much. So yes, I'm keeping an eye out, just to make sure that we're not being followed.
You were able to pick up a notebook, but also from the very end of the table, you were able to pick up what looked like a precious bracelet, probably dated, and a bit of a nice artifact. You might have it stored away in your pocket. You're not quite sure how these people will react if you show them that you have it. What have you done with these 2 things that you picked up?
Well, I've simply put them in my pocket for now, feeling that perhaps there will be a better time when we get ashore. We will have some time to properly speak to the professor and his granddaughter. Perhaps that will be a good time to show these things and try to get more answers as to what really happened there, and if there's perhaps something that we can learn from this notebook. We don't really know who it belongs to, so... But this doesn't seem like the right time. I'm sure that everyone is very taken by what they have just been through. Being kidnapped and forced to work at some kind of dig site, that's a nightmare.
Yes, indeed. Good. Well, you're holding on to them steadily while keeping watch at the horizon, and at this moment you don't see anyone following you, and you've been going at quite high speed, and you think that you might be safe for now. But before you get a chance to relay that to Harry, who is at the engine, the professor does speak up.
Oh, Harry, I'm so grateful that you came. How on earth did you find out where we were?
My dear boy, I need to find you. I can find you, you know that. But, Professor, are you okay? Are you hurt? Did they rough you up?
I am fine, Harry. I'm fine.
He puts a hand on your leg.
I am fine. But all the artifacts... Oh, it's such a tragedy. It's a travesty. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. All the things that we found out there. All the precious vases. They took everything. Well, almost everything. You see, they didn't understand the most precious things that we found. The things that I wanted to show you. They are still out there and tucked away, as discarded as just carvings. But what I found, Harry, I found stone tablets. Written upon them clues.
And he takes a moment trying to calm down himself, and his granddaughter is softly trying to stroke his arm.
It's all right, Professor. Take your time. Take your time. We're in a boat. In a minute, we'll get you on shore. We'll have a nice bottle of whiskey. And forgive me, Elena, yes?
And as you start saying these comforting words, the professor starts to weep softly and leans into his granddaughter, who is also starting to be a bit teary-eyed. And before long, everyone in the whole company are starting to cry, and in relief of their rescue, and how tragic it all is, and what are they going to do, and how is this going to end. And in the middle of this weep fest, Elena does speak up. I am Elena, yes. You were supposed to meet me, and you are Harry Fitzroy, is it? Mr. Fitzroy.
You can call me Harry, my dear. Again, the granddaughter of one of my oldest friends, I am at your service. And I can tell you now, and all of you, and at this point I stand up and I begin looking to the horizon as I control the boat. All of you, you are safe. Me and Paul have rescued you, and I vow, nay, in the name of God, in the name of my homeland, of all that is good in this world, we are going to sort this. We are going to get these rascals, they're just comeuppance. We are going to get back all these artifacts that they've stolen, and we are going to, well, whatever else you need, we shall do it. Isn't that right, Paul?
That is completely right.
Right, and it is now, Paul, that you also realize that Harry is driving in full speed. He's trying to stand up at the same time, and there doesn't seem to be anyone following you, so you could probably slow down a little bit.
Oh, well, yes. It looks like the coast is clear. We're not being followed. Don't, feel free to slow down a little bit.
Oh, right, yes. Of course, yes, you just pull the lever here, and there we go. That should slow us down a little, yes.
And the engine stops sounding like a goat in an Iron Maiden, and starts puttering along more gently for a bit as you are reaching some other islands and going past them. It will be a good 2 hours before you're back in Piraeus, the port city of Athens, and Dino's boat shop. And in your invigorating speech, the spirits are slowly starting to calm down, also with the boat going a bit slower and the general tension easing up. And one of the young boys young man starts to speak up. It is the man in the lovely Greek mustache and blue shirt. He holds out his hand to the two of you and introduces himself as Tommaso Constantino. Yes, it has been quite a predicament that we have found us in here, I'm afraid. I am an archaeology student, together with my friend here, Christos, and they both reach out their hands to start saying hello. Christos looked a bit jealously at you, Paul, for whatever reason. Maybe because you were talking to Eleanor, you're not sure. But Tommaso continues, and he says, I have seen them. I have seen them several times. They are two people, one, I think they are both Turkish, one dressed in a red suit and a fez, and then another person who looks like he's come straight out of the military, but dressed up as a banker. It's a strange combination. They come every now and then they pick up the artifacts on a boat, and then they leave us. They say they cannot leave the boat for safety reasons, for us to not be able to escape. And every night they tie us up. They tie us up, and we are supposed to sleep in some dreadful circumstances like bundles. And some of the guards are staying awake, keeping their guard, and then that's it. I think they might not be coming back for another few days to pick up the next haul. So you probably have until then to figure out what to do next, or maybe get the police over there. I don't know.
Well, we need to be careful, my good boy. After all, this is assuming those ruffians we already encountered aren't going to go and make their report. Surely they had a boat, and they will report back to their masters. Yes, a man with a fez. Elena, are you okay? We were worried that this mysterious individual had harmed you in some way. That was why you were unable to make your meeting with us.
And you, Paul, even if Harry is slightly confused by this news, you do understand that there must not have been another boat then on the island. So without a telephone line or anything else, the only way for them to get off the island would have been to, wait for their colleagues to come and take them away, which, they apparently did every few days or so.
Yes, I wonder if they have a radio or something like that they can use to keep in touch, or if they, just showed up. I asked that. Do you know if was there a radio or something, or did you ever see them using something like that? I'm sure there was no phone line there, right?
No, there were no connections at all.
And the professor speaks.
I did not see anyone talking ever. There was no radios, no contact, nothing. They were always convincing them, this Mehmet, I think his name was, I'd heard it once. Otherwise, they were always speaking in code names. These mooks, these yellow-bellied good-for-nothings, they always call themselves different things like Cod and Haddock and things like this to mask their own identities. But they were shivering in their boots whenever the Turk or the Turks came by.
Code names. But it's good to hear that there was no connection. That does give us some time before they will come after us. This is very, very fortunate, and I can't help but feel a little bit of schadenfreude about the fact that they're now stuck on this island without being able to do anything about our escape. That's it's actually kind of funny.
Yes, but I suggest perhaps, I myself will definitely want to take this to the police. I wanted to help, I really did, and he looks like he's on the verge of crying again, but I simply could not risk them hurting my dear Elena.
And she is she looks a little bit abashed, like she doesn't really want to be saved, but she lets her grandpa play on.
Well, maybe for the moment, let us leave some of the questions and let us get all of you safely somewhere warm with food and drink, and then we can discuss further plans. And I'll go over to Paul and say, This is very intriguing, Paul. Very intriguing indeed. On one hand, we could easily call the police and get all the men on that island arrested, but I wonder, what do you think? Because how are we then going to find the real people responsible for this?
That is a good question. I mean, if they're coming back, obviously waiting on the island would eventually allow someone to catch them. But we also have something to go on. I mean, we have perhaps a name. We know that they're Turkish. They're probably going to be in Athens somewhere, probably. Although, who knows? Turkey isn't so far off either. But I think the first thing to do is really to get all these people into safety, and then if they want to contact the police, I think that's a reasonable thing to do under the circumstances. It would be suspicious not to.
That's very true. I think you have a good point. Perhaps this old fool was thinking of a clever ambush on the island, but maybe that would be rather dangerous. No, you're right. Let's get this all sorted, and then let us see if we can ourselves find these other two before they flee. After all, that's what these cowardly people normally do. If their plans are foiled, they try and flee. Well, hopefully we can catch them. Maybe, though, maybe we can delay them. Well, mind you, they wouldn't know. That's a good point. They won't know everything's been foiled, will they, necessarily?
That's right. They wouldn't know.
Ah, Paul, you devil, you rogue, did you see what you did there? What a daring rescue. So, almost reminds me of Cairo.
Yes, but it ended better than Cairo did, didn't it? At least, so far. This isn't quite over yet.
Oh, yes, well, that's true. We did almost... a whole pyramid almost fell down. Wasn't that hilarious? Well, not hilarious, but hilarious in foresight.
And the entire group starts to slowly calm down as the two of you are talking about old times and less about what to do. But as you do get back to Piraeus and that part of Athens, Dino takes care of the boat. The engine more or less runs out of fuel or gives up. You're not quite sure. You're not machine specialists the last way, so you have to row it into the harbor. And Dino is straight away starting to examine his little boat as the group gets up on the dry land. But the professor is insisting that he wants to go to the police straight away and tell them about these thugs. Elena doesn't seem to have much. She's ready to support her grandfather, and the two students think that they just want to take it easy and go back home, but they realize that they probably must be interrogated as well. What do you think about this, and what would you like to do?
I believe my friend Paul has made a good point, and not only him, but everyone else. For now, the police must be involved. They must be made aware of who's on the island, they must arrest them, and most importantly, make sure that the remaining artifacts are returned safely to the current jurisdiction of my good friend the Professor.
Yes. And do you agree then with this decision, Paul?
Absolutely, yes. I think this is the only logical course of action, and the one that would be expected of us. Let us move for that, and then see where that will take us. Would not be surprised if our Turkish friends will seek us out, but we will keep our eyes open.
Well, the six of you then get efficiently squeezed into Paul's small car, because I believe you only used one of your cars to get down to the harbor at this point, and head over to the police station. And it's now early evening, around 7, as you get there, and there's not much activity going on. You find the police station looking like an old building, like you would imagine a Greek courthouse almost to look, with pillars outside and wooden doors opening and closing as people are eager to get home to their own work while others take over the night shift. You come in, and there is a bit of a Greek exchange, of course. And since neither of you speak the language, Professor will take the lead, and they are starting to make a report of sorts. And they take everyone in and they talk to everyone at a time about what happened. And you are thanked by the police for helping out and doing this. But aside from needing your testimony, they are quite soon dismissing the two of you to gratefully say that's very good. The police will take over their investigations from now on. So the question is, what would you like to do? Would you like to, while you're now at the police station, do anything here to help out your private investigation? Because it seems like the police are keen to take over themselves, but who knows, maybe you can gather some pieces of information.
I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to demand to speak to their superiors, because I go to the nearest police officer and I start saying, aren't you going, you need to go there right away, my dear chaps. Those ruffians, I mean, fair enough, they will be there for a day or two, but you never know what sort of thing they'll prepare. Surely, you know, you're not just going to lie around and do nothing. I can tell you right now, in my, in London town.
We can assure you that, yes, we will send out a dispatchment to this Philakis island, and we will, take into custody anyone that we find there. Don't you worry.
I would like to gain 6 story points, if I may, via my complication. Honest. I am now going to be honest to these law officials and make myself unable to participate further in this important scene. I am going to say, now, young man, don't interrupt your elders. I was about to say, in London town, the police force would not put up with this. They are extremely professional, and I thought that you would be professional as well, but honestly, this is outrageous. I have never been treated in such a way. I feel you are dismissing my good friend the professor, and honestly, this is outrageous, preposterous, madness.
And if this were a comic book, there would be a few squares now filled with your speech, essentially. And on the following comic square, we see you out in the street ranting continuously at some poor policeman who was just trying to make his way back home after having finished his shift for the day. And he doesn't even seem to speak English, but you haven't given him a chance to say so. So what we have left then in the police station with a chance to investigate is Paul.
Yes, and I shall utilize my 6th sense here. I would like to find something important in this scene here. Try to find out what is it with these police officers, really? I mean, do they really take this seriously? Are they in on it, perhaps? What can I learn here that might aid us?
As the hustle and bustle continues in the police station, and some people are talking quietly in one corner, and most of them seem quite happy about the noisy Englishman having been somehow vacating the premises. You spot something, perhaps by accident. On the first floor, there is a stair up to it, just by the reception where you just were released. You see through a window a note board with lots of notes and lines drawn in between them, and on it you see pictures of what looks to be urns and vases and, well, artifacts similar to what you had seen on the island.
This is very interesting. I shall attempt to discreetly make my way over there to investigate further and see if I can understand the context behind why these things are here, and is it perhaps so that these law enforcement officers actually are way more aware of what's going on here than they are letting us know?
As these thought bubbles are appearing above your head, you don't catch too much attention as you make your way up there and find out that the room with these pictures on the board belongs to a Inspector Basil Dimopoulos. And you're not sure completely what he has to do with anything, but he was listening in for a little bit. You can look in and you see his kind of messy black hair being leaned over some sort of papers on his desk. You did see him look in for a second while the archaeologists were having their version of the story noted down.
This man obviously would know something, so I'll see if I can approach him and see if I can speak to him, understand if he has some information that he would like to share with us, or if he's trying to hide something. Perhaps he's even in league with the Turks.
Perhaps. So, you just go in? Do you knock on the door? What do you do?
I will, of course, knock on the door. I'll try to be polite. I am a guest here, and but I do try to act as though I obviously have a right to be here. I am not, I'm not out of my element here.
He doesn't look up from whatever he's doing. He just says, "Ne." If you know any Greek at all, you know that this means yes, yes. But you don't really know. He just says this and keeps looking at his things.
I approach and I say, Inspector Dimopoulos, is it?
Yeah, English, yes, that is me. He looks up. You, I know you from somewhere.
Oh, perhaps you do. I travel around a lot, but perhaps you know me from earlier today. You see, we came in with the folks from the island, the ones who'd been taken captive by these ruffians at this excavation site.
Yes, the archaeologists. Yes, the very unfortunate that, but also very interesting. It might have to do something with what I'm looking into at the moment. I'm a bit busy. What exactly is it that you want?
Well, I was hoping we might be able to be of some assistance. The cases may indeed be connected, as you have surmised. The items, they look very similar to, well, what we could see at the island and what the professor, what he has been looking into. So perhaps there is a connection here. I remember hearing something about fakes being passed around. Is that what you're dealing with, perhaps?
He lets out a long sigh and he leans back into his chair. His jaw is wiggling from side to side as if he's trying to figure out what to do with you. Would you roll me a charm roll, please?
39 under 45.
He looks at you nonplussed, unimpressed, and kind of blankly. And then he just, after a few seconds like this, throws his hands up in the air and says, "Oh, what does it matter? Get me a bottle of Ouzo 12. We can sit down and talk."
Certainly. Would you like to do it at the office, or shall we go somewhere else?
I never leave my office.
You never leave your office, but you drink here. All right, certainly. I'll go get you right that. Ouzo 12, was it?
It wasn't 12. Or 7.
Or 7. I'll be right back.
And you can get these easy enough. Doesn't take too long until the two of you are sitting there. He's not going over everything with you. You can see that he is quite intently keeping some things away. But you learn that he is in charge of the investigation regarding smugglers. The Greek government take a rather dim view about their artifacts leaving the country, and he seems passionate about it and looking quite keen to get things sorted out, though he is definitely on the thinking side, and you get the impression that he is very clever. There's no way you could trick this man. But in a way, lucky for you that you are not a police officer yourself, because if you were, you would have a problem with jurisdiction. So as you share a few drinks here, which is excellent, by the way, Basil continues to tell you a few things. There has been a big increase in smuggling of artifacts and forgeries over the past 2 years or so. As I say, both real ones and fake ones. It seems to me as if it's rather well organized.
Yes, that is a big problem, of course. There's so many beautiful, important historical artifacts in Greece, and they are very much sought after across the entire world. Lots of money in it. So I can certainly understand why this is happening. Do you have any clues as to who might be behind it?
Well, not really. Not on the depth. We have some first ideas. And here you can, if you would like to, you could roll either an investigation check to see if you can spot anything among the things that he's not showing, or a contacts check if you want to see if you can find any names or see if anything comes up that you know from before. But both would be at -2.
I think I'll go with investigation then. That is a 57 over 45, so unfortunately I'm not able to glean anything more from that. I can, however, given that I have saved up so many story points, use another 2 to find the important thing in this scene, taking me down to 5 story points remaining.
He keeps talking and says, yes, possibly. There could be a large, overarching organization at work here. Something that makes this happen, or someone. Problem is that I don't know who exactly is involved. And you see at occasional places in his reports a Greek word come up several times with a capitalized letter. It says ktapodi. Chtapodi. Ktapodi. And it's circled, and there are plenty of question marks around this strange word. He leans back and stretches and says, "The question is, of course, from where exactly they are operating. Are they based here in the country? Are they working abroad? Where do they collect all their things? We might get some more answers from the people that you're, the ones you rescued. Well, you said, from what I understand, there were more people on the island holding them captive and you got them away. So if we get them into interrogation, maybe we'll find out more. But for now, I don't have a clue from where they're operating. That is the next challenge. If we can make a big bust, that would be helpful."
Well, we do know that there are some Turkish citizens involved. It could be related to that country.
That would be troublesome. I would not be able to have any... Well, of course, we can pull something perhaps through Interpol or make it happen, but it would be practical if we could find any sort of base of operations here, if there is one.
The geopolitical situation isn't all that easy between these your country and theirs. But tell me, there's just one thing I can't help. Does this word here, I just see it repeating, this Ktapodi. What do you know what that is?
Well, Ktapodi, and he moves a document over the one that had it circled, and he looks at you for a second. It just means octopus. And this to you definitely rings a bell, because if there's something that you and your colleagues have been running into a lot ever since founding your circle of friends and investigators, it is this rumor of a widespread international organization called the Octopus. Some have an idea that it would rise from the failed peace negotiations and everything after the First World War, and certain factions wanting things differently, but you don't really know. But it is familiar.
Yes, you've just seen it in your investigations. Then I gather I have noticed this as well previously. It seems to be some kind of group, perhaps. Perhaps they are the ones behind all this. They seem nefarious.
I don't know. I really don't know. It has come up. Usually, it indicates a mafia ring. Something, or some people having a certain interest. In gaining money, mostly. I'm not sure if this goes deeper than that. But from what I could tell with the interviews with the professor, well, it seems like they were mostly interested in the objects that would give them more, monetary gains rather than the fun things that meant something historically.
Money is power. Power is money. It's all interconnected, and what they're trying to do is, probably requires a lot of both. Well, keep your eyes peeled for that, I suppose. I'll try and do the same. I'll return if I find anything else.
If you find any hints of a location, I would be eager to put together a team and make our bust, or make our move. That is all. It was a pleasure meeting you, Paul. Good luck.
You too. Thank you. And, safe in the knowledge that I have made some progress here and I have found out important things, I will try and make my way back to Harry, who is undoubtedly starting to feel lonely out on the street, I would guess.
Yes, Harry, what have you been doing ever since you realized that you'd been walking with this officer a good fair bit and ranting at him?
Well, I don't know. I eventually do begin to run down, don't I? I'll let the policeman go back to his job, but here I am outside and rather impatiently waiting for Paul, and I suppose I'll go to a little cafe and get myself a little drink, and I suppose that's where he'll find me, just like the little cafe just across from the police station.
He does, and so also does Professor Georgios. It seems like his granddaughter has called it a night, and she was quite tired and flustered with the whole thing. But yes, you're sitting there, and it's dinner time, and you're both starved after the adventures of the day. So there you sit and you eat, have a little bit of a drink, and the professor is telling you a little bit more about what he actually had found.
Well, of course he is. It's the first thing I ask after we've got past the hors d'oeuvres. It's like, Professor, so you were saying the clues. Clues? What clues to what?
Well, the interesting thing here is that it's an ancient language. I haven't completely found out the name for it, but I'm calling it Linear A for now. It is the Minoan language, and it is written upon these stone tablets. And they mention something, if my decipherings are correct, called the Pillars of Hercules. And then he is looking at you very expectantly.
Hercules, the mythological figure from Greek myth, yes? But surely that was just a story.
If you want to roll humanities, you could, otherwise you'll let him explain.
I shall certainly roll my humanities. Naturally, of course, I don't have any. I barely know most of the things about the things I actually explore. For me, it's more the thrill of finding than actually understanding, but you never know. Let's roll a percentile dice. And that is a failure.
He, as you start talking about then Hercules, his eyebrows lower a bit, and
well, of course, I forget sometimes. The Pillars of Hercules were mentioned almost 1,000 years before this was supposedly written in Plato's dialogues, and he mentions them as a reference to the route to Atlantis.
Atlantis, my dear boy, you're surely pulling my leg.
I could be wrong, of course, and it could require it will require further studies. But could this be a hint toward the actual mythological sunken city?
My goodness, how outstanding! And so you believe the artifacts that thankfully you've managed to hide from those awful individuals, you think that they have clues that might lead to these pillars, and the pillars themselves would then be the step to Atlantis?
That is what I hope. That we've found huge amounts of pottery, jewelry, and other things that would be part of the daily life and activities in Minoan society. From what I understand, the island itself, Philakis, that we were on, it used to be a small city with a palace, a temple, its own harbor even, and they regularly dealt with both Minos as well as Athens. And so, this leads me, of course, to believe that somehow they gathered the facts and it was all hidden here somewhere. It could be the first indications of a route to... And he stuffs his mouth with a big bite of fish, and his eyes are very excitedly looking at the both of you.
Goodness me, Professor, this is astounding! Of course! Why do you have doubts that this surely is going to lead us? Even if it doesn't lead us the whole way, even finding these pillars of Hercules itself sounds like an exciting adventure. My dear boy, I am with you. We are going to sort out these ruffians, get back those important artifacts, and then, my dear boy, we shall find this fabled place, or at least the pillars.
And he looks over to Paul. I don't know if you're a scholar of history yourself, but one thing that they unfortunately have taken, and probably sold by now, was an artifact similar to the Antikythera mechanism. Are you familiar with it?
Can't say that I am, no.
It is, from what we know, an ancient, hand-powered orrery. It's almost as a calculator of sort. Analog, of course, used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses decades in advance. But this one that we have found now is meant for calculating the winds, currents, high-low tides over the years, instead of the eclipses and astronomical data.
Interesting. And I fish out the bracelets that I picked up on the island. I'm sure this has nothing to do with it, but I needed to show you this. I picked this up at the island. Is this related in any way to, well, what you are looking for?
At first, his eyes darken a little bit. But then he slowly reaches out his hand to see if you will give it to him.
Of course.
Thank you. He looks at it. It's a beautiful find. I believe it was Christos who found it. No, unfortunately, this is nothing more than mere jewelry. Invaluable, of course, for our museums, but I don't think it will help with the answers. I made a lot of notes about the whole thing and what I'd found so far, but I'm afraid I didn't have time to bring them with me.
I have some good news for you then, and I fish out a notebook as well. Would this be the one?
Bless you, you are a savior. Thank you. So how did you... It all went so fast. I don't even know how you pulled it off. There were so many of them, and yet... I could use a rest. I haven't slept in my own soft bed for what seems like days, but what will you do now? You must find these thieves.
Yes, I do believe, Paul, you were saying something that you had actually got something out of those policemen, which is... I don't know how you did that. Utterly preposterous, my treatment there.
Well, it's the power of Uzo. And, yes, I met with a inspector there who is looking into... was an Inspector Dimopoulos. He's investigating the smuggling of artifacts. And it seems like all of this is connected. And I found the strangest thing there. A mention of some kind of an organization. Sapodi Octopus? You've heard of the octopus, right? In our studies.
Jove, of course I have. In fact, wasn't when we were down in... where was it? Oh, New Zealand! Wasn't one of those ruffians. He had an octopus tattoo, didn't he? We thought nothing of it, but... Yes, I have heard... You don't think these two ruffians are somehow involved with that organization, do you?
It seems like they have their tentacles spread across the entire world, from Wellington to Ankara.
Yes, so then we need to find these individuals, and, well, my friend Paul, bring them to justice. Before we leave you for the night, Professor, my dear friend, first of all, can I say how happy I am to know you are well? And also, I would be remiss if we didn't mention that, you asked how we found you. Well, I am an honest man. Part of it was your good friend, Professor, what was his name? Was it Professor Christos as well?
Yes. Yes, Professor Christos Lakatis, yes.
Yes. To be fair, all credit where it's due, he also knew about your... I assume you'd already told him.
Yes, of course. Yes, I had asked him to come and meet you on this day and welcome you, as I could not be a very good welcoming committee myself. I just told him about the hotel you might stay at, and it seems like he figured out things for himself, and he must have been worried about me.
Certainly. Again, I'll be honest, I made the assumption that he was a trusted colleague of yours.
I hold him as in high regard as he holds me. We often find ourselves trying to outbrag the others, or make the others shine more. Well, he told you then about where to find me, I suppose.
Exactly, yes. It's the secret revealed.
Well, he too is very worried about artifacts ending up in the wrong hands, and if I'm not mistaken, he made a list himself about all the art dealers in Athens that could possibly be dealing with them, be it falsified or real. I know the authorities don't want things to be sold, and most sold are fakes. But sometimes, to the highest bidder, of course, even genuine artifacts do pass hands inside and outside the border.
What do you say, Paul? Maybe this professor could help us. Maybe we could investigate one of the individuals he finds suspicious, and you never know, we might get lucky.
That's not a bad idea.
And then you finish up your dinner here, and the professor is quite eager to get home and get changed, have a hot bath, and find himself in bed. And it's starting to be a bit late now in the evening. It's about 10 or so, but being a Mediterranean capital, things are still bustling and going on in the street and elsewhere. And people are probably awake a bit late if you should decide to want to call on Professor Lakatis.
Yes, there's no time like the present.
So, you have his address from having been there. You've been at his place and had dinner, so it's not too hard for you to find your way back there. And he welcomes you in, and he, as you reveal that you've rescued his friend, he is very grateful and shocked to hear about the things that have actually went down. What do you say more?
We inform him of everything that happened, and then we politely inform him that we need his help. I say, Professor, sir, you must understand, we need to find these ruffians, and soon. According to Professor Alexandros, you've actually been looking into the counterfeit matter yourself. Are there any who tell us your top 3 of the most suspicious individuals or organizations where you think some of this stuff is going down?
I'm not quite sure. I have made an extensive list, but as you can imagine, it's quite many. He goes to look at a few notes that he has. Here we are. Unfortunately, I only have these 10 names. Let me see. And he tries to go over them with you.
As we're looking over the list, I will look to Paul, and I'll say, Paul, you tell me, is there anything you're getting from this list of people? Anything that sounds suspicious? After all, my friend Paul has some experience with, individuals of, can I just sort of peter off?
Yes, I know some folks who run in somewhat less kosher circles, shall we say. But I'm not sure if I'll be of much use here, but let me give it an attempt. And I'll look at the list of names here. The Phronopolis Auction House, Hesapis Antiquities, Caris and Arete, Lysander's Art. These are all art dealers and antiquities dealers. Matsuoka, Onassis Antiquities, Petrakis Art Exports, Savas, Tsaotsis, Siphias.
Yes, so there is the Phronopolis Auction House. It's a high-end auction house. Absolute expertise, rivaling that, I would say, of the National Museum. They has Hesapis Antiquities, and he goes over them, and it seems like some of them are more tourist shops, while some of them are like this one, bigger auction house, and smaller auction houses, and they have different connections with collectors, and the Onassis Antiquities, he says, is connected to a very powerful Onassis family, famous for their shipping. But yes, is there any in particular that you're curious about? You can, if you would like, either of you, you can roll a humanities check to see if you know anything particular about them. And only let one of you do that. So whoever thinks they are the luckiest.
I am not skilled at that at all. But Harry, what about you? Is this something that you have some training in?
Not in the slightest.
That is a 16 over 15, I'm afraid.
As I look over the thing, not understanding any of it at all, I just start squinting at it very hard, and gosh darn it, I say to the professor, there must be something, man, think! And I would like to spend however many story points you think necessary, because it can be 1 to 4. I would like a clue. But the question is, how much does this clue cost?
I will shorten the lists for you dramatically, I'd like to say, with 2 story points.
Spend them I shall.
Very good. So he quickly discounts the last 3 ones. No, I don't think it is the Savas, the Tsaos, Siphias, neither the Onassis. They're a big family, but from what I know, the Andros Onassis, he is the black sheep of the family. He loves antiquities and he will keep them for himself. Not much risk of him trying to export something. So I would say worth looking into could be Phronopolis, Hesapis, Caris, Arete, Lysanders. Is that how you say it? Lysander?
Right, well, all right then. Well, there we go. Phronopolis, Hanapsis, Carassus, and Lysander. This first one. There we go. Start from the top, work our way through. That's how we do it in the army. Could I perhaps rely at this point on my contacts? I may actually know some people who know some of these organizations. A few phone calls. Might get lucky, you never know.
Yes, and for what purpose?
My questioning would be quite simple. Are these trustworthy individuals? Have you done good business with this lot, or have you ever had a problem with them? Again, I'll make several calls. I'll call the consulate in London. I'll call my friends. Of course, I have a few friends in the antique business here in Greece, because, again, I have been here before.
Let's use it to try and find someone who has perhaps dealt with them.
Yes, perfect. Let's roll the dice. So that was a 95, which of course is a failure. Therefore, I am going to spend 2 story points, taking me down to 5. 2 story points to flip the check, making it a 59 under my 65 success.
Very good. Do you do this now? It's closer to 11 in the night.
Of course I do. There's no time like the present.
Well, it's 2 hours earlier in London, I'd like to think. Or 1 hour. I'm not completely sure of the time zone. But you wake people up in the middle of the night, those of your friends that can afford telephones, which is quite a good number of them, because that's the kind of friends you keep. Well, you have more
Indeed,
friends.
after all, I should say I have contact 65, but I have no charm or any other social standards, so it's not like I am very polite, I just know a lot of people.
So you make some calls, you are able to reach your old friend William Ruckus Dykeman, and he is glad to chat in the middle of the night, but can't help you. You call on to Bertie Cockrell, who is less happy to have been awakened, but now that you're on the line, why don't you talk a little bit about what you've been up to lately, and you have to apologize yourself. And then you reach Ethel Fidget, who is a librarian in Edinburgh. And she actually knows a little.
So how nice of you to call me, Harry.
No!
I haven't heard from you for quite a while, but so you're asking here about Phrynopolis auction house, is that right?
Yes, that is indeed one of the people I'm asking about. Again, Ethel, I apologize for the time. I know it's unseemly, but just...
Oh, it's all right. I was just up making myself some tea. I don't sleep very well, and if it's not, new ideas about how to stock the books, it's the cat that's keeping me awake. So don't you worry about that. I like keeping myself busy. Let me see. I'm pretty sure I had something come by. Oh yes, here it is. It's quite a high-end auction house, but I suppose anyone could tell you that. What I heard from them, that they had quite upset the other year because they used to deal with a certain American gentleman called a Mr. Richards. He used to sell them parts of his collection, but, he stopped when their art experts, the ones of the auction house, they revealed that despite certificates of authenticity, one of his pieces turned out to be a modern forgery.
My God! How disgraceful!
Isn't it madness? Thinking, having a proper certificate and everything, and the thing passing several checks, turning out to be a forgery. This Mr. Richards.
Good, and this was... what happened? Was there an investigation into the auction house?
I think you might have heard of this man. It's Morgan Richards, actually.
And you definitely have heard of Morgan Richards, a famous American businessman, known for treating everyone around him badly, thinking that money can buy everything, and having an army of lawyers getting him out of several corporate lawsuits and other troubling things. And Ethel continues,
You probably know him. He's been in the newspaper several times, and things he's getting away with are outrageous.
My goodness, I see. Morgan... Yes, I have heard of a Morgan Richards. Oh, I see what you're getting at. A man like that, if he makes a complaint, perhaps he's the one in the wrong. But as mad as it might be, maybe he actually is right in this case. I'm starting to believe there's a chance.
No, the thing is that he was the one selling. He was the one that had the forgeries. He was the one that had the forgeries and tried to sell it to the auction house. So somehow he got his hands on them, you see. And I don't know, I wouldn't put it past him if he is involved in some kind of shady circles, if not, more than 3 handfuls.
I start thinking to myself what this could mean then. Does this mean that the auction house is actually not suspicious because they didn't take the things off him? Or are they suspicious because they were working with this Mr. Richards and therefore... maybe let it slide this man's false paintings?
Could be either way, really. But someone there might then know of this Mr. Richards and be keen not to have things exposed.
My dear girl, you have helped me immensely. Allow me to leave you to your night, but thank you. Trust me, this is vitally important, and if we're lucky, some awful ruffians may finally face some justice.
Well, it was my pleasure, really. Awful ruffians, you say? Well, be careful, Harry. I know you like getting yourself into trouble.
Trouble is my middle name.
It certainly is. All right, well, I'd better see to making that cup of tea, then. It was good catching up with you. Hope to see you when you get back.
Indeed, my dear. Look after the cat, and I will certainly see you when I'm next round those parts.
Yes, and then she starts trying to talk about her cats, and you hear purring and meowing in the background, and you'll have to excuse yourself after a little while.
I hang up and return to the others. Very well, Professor, the hour is getting late, but Paul, my dear rogue. Phrynopolis Auction House. They have had dealings with a suspicious individual, a certain Morgan Richards. Suspicious foreplay, forgeries, would you believe?
Ah, yes. I remember reading about this in the newspaper. Atrocity. I just didn't think of it as connected to this, as seeing it is an American, and you mentioned the Turks.
Indeed. Well, you never know. What do you think, Paul? This could be a good first place for our investigation starting tomorrow.
It's worth looking into, for sure.
And so, as it is starting to get quite late, and it's been a very intense day, you're both falling into bed as you get back to your hotel.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we played The Minoan Affair for the Troubleshooters. The Troubleshooters is published by our friends at Helmgast, who have also kindly sponsored this series. The music was made by Phonotech, featuring a number of collaborations with other artists, and was used with permission from their label Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julián, Camilla, Bob Lange, Julián, Cameron, Xabier, and Antxon for their generous support. And we'd of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember, the octopus is about to emerge.